Hey everyone, welcome. We are doing another recap here on CBiz Media Faith, Love, and Trends. This time it's Married at First Sight, and this episode is I Just Want to Eat You Up. Married at First Sight is a reality show where people are paired with other people through experts that feel that they're compatible, and they literally get married at first sight. Then they have to go through the process of learning each other, seeing if they love each other, they want to be with each other, and at the end of that process, they either stay married or get divorced. The stakes are high for me when it comes to this particular love-related reality show, Married at First Sight. And the title, I Just Want to Eat You Up, it sounds very interesting, so we're going to find out what that all means. But first, let's start with some of these couples and just do a little recap with Camille and Thomas. It seems like the couples are stopping by family members and just kind of doing a little family checkup, I guess, of their own and reconnecting with Camille and Thomas. I don't think he ever met her grandmother, so they stopped at the grandmother's house. The dad is also there, one of the other relatives, and it's just fun. It's nice. It's what you expect when you would go see grandma. Her and her grandmother are really close. A beautiful little brown lady. It was just a nice time, and Thomas seemed to fit right in. She showed the book off where she was in the paper a few times, probably multiple times for her basketball teams that she was in. So her grandma has all of those stats in a little photo book, and it just kind of reminisce. And they get a little bit more information on Camille, the type of vibe that she has. And her dad, I believe, said she as a player in the basketball arena, she had, I'm not sure if he used the word swag. I think he used the word finesse. So, I mean, she got in the paper. She said she wasn't competitive, but she had a finesse about her. She was like a good team player, which I think is a good thing, but she was not super competitive. But later on, she became more competitive, and I assume that's a good thing. And then we go to, later on with this couple, we go to Thomas's mom's home, his biological mom, because he does have an adopted mother. And he said he met her about 7 years ago. She's kind of a party fun type of person. And Camille's like, I think I'll be able to work with that. You'll probably be taking shots. And she's like, yeah, I can do that. So they meet the mom once again, because I know that they met during the wedding. But she kind of gets deeper and deeper into the story of how she gave up her twins, Thomas and his brother, and how she had to do that basically because she already had a daughter, I believe, around 16 or before 16, and she wasn't able to handle 3 children. So at her job, there was a lady that had information about adoption, so she connected with her and adopted the kids off. And it was harder than she thought it was going to be, but she did what she felt was best, so her kids will have the best life. And Thomas admits they did have a good life with their adoptive family. So the bonding is nice. They're getting to learn and know more about each other. Camille is wearing mom jeans. To me, that stood out to me, but there's more mom jeans that will appear in this episode. But all in all, for this couple, they continue on the same stride to me. They continue to improve and be better. I'm trying to think if there was any tears. I don't think there was any tears this time in this episode, but Thomas's mom does say, he is sensitive. You've probably seen that, and he has cried a few times, and I think that Thomas was like, he wants to get more of that sensitive side out of Camille. Maybe she's not quite as sensitive as he is. It doesn't matter as long as it works and it flows. She says he's a kind, good person, and that's really all that matters at the end of the day. So I'm rooting for them to make it to the end of this and not get a divorce. Let's see. We're going to go to Madison and Alan. And today seems to be sports episode for them. So they first went to play baseball. And Madison, they just basically what they say, throw the ball around. So they just basically play catch with each other with their baseball mitts. And as they were playing, just tossing the old ball around, which I've heard people say, Madison admits, she was bullied. She wasn't really the cool kid. So sports played a big part in her life and helping her to feel like she found a place. She had her other teammates to be there by her side. So seeing her today, she looks like she is probably the most wanted woman. Most men would want to go after her. Maybe a lot of women would like to befriend her or whatnot, but she tells her past is that she really wasn't that girl back in that time. So that was something good and revealing, and maybe she could connect more with Alan based on that, because Alan does even describe himself as a little bit eccentric and not just like every other guy, which I think is actually a good quality. So as they're playing, he's being supportive, and he keeps kind of fumbling the ball. Like he did like some really bad fumbles of the ball. Like I'm not sure. I guess he's just not really good at catch. I mean, he wasn't horrible for the most part. He was keeping pace, but he had a couple of really crazy fumbles that should be memes at some point. So meme people, go out there, get that clip. She also talks about, that was a time she was coming of age. She was low income, kind of revealing a little bit like Michelle, not having a lot, but she also said she was on food stamps at the time. She doesn't really remember a lot, but she remembers that at one point she had a party and her mom came with her boyfriend, and it was just really embarrassing because the mom was, I guess, out of control and didn't really say exactly what she did, but I think it's related to drinking because there was a whole issue about drinking in the last episode with Alan, and that's the issue for her, and I think her mom has some type of connection with that. So after she reveals all that information, she also says she really didn't have a bond with her mother that she wished that she would have had. It just never existed. It never came to fruition. And Alan, says as far as her being a good mom, that she's going to be a really great mom. She's a great person. So I think that makes her feel good. It looks like they're having a nice bonding moment, but she's saying, she's glad that they're having these great moments, but she's not really sure if it's going to spark that romantic connection or not. And he's like, sure, yeah, I get it. I think he gets it, but he's just kind of tired of it being technically so hard to connect with her on that level. But, she's saying she wants it to work. And so now they go fishing. He takes her to one of his pastimes. And he talks about he used to fish with his dad. And him and his dad really didn't talk a lot, but they would fish. That was their thing that they did together. And his dad, I guess, was not really a talkative person, I assume. And he gets a little bit emotional when he talks about his stepsister and how she was affected by the whole custody battle that his parents had for him. He talks about being just like a different type of guy, a little bit more sensitive and not really, when it comes to women and dating, he wasn't like the other guys. So he kind of shed a few tears there. I think that they do later on do those letters to each other, but I think they already got some of their tears out. But Madison almost, to me, seemed like she was going to break into tears, but from what I remember, I don't think she did. Just talking to her younger self and what she would have told her younger self if she knows what she knew now, kind of what they did last week with some of the other couples. So they both kind of wrote letters to themselves and kind of further explained their connections and disconnections and just issues as kids growing up. But before that, during the fishing thing, he started to cry. Madison's always been, a comforting person, so she did comfort him, give him a hug. Of course, he took advantage of this hug, like he picked her up, did a little booty tap after the hug. So, he was like taking his time to get a little feels. I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if she was comfortable or uncomfortable with that, but I guess he's just trying to make up for lost time. Some may be uncomfortable and say you shouldn't have did that. For me, I don't know. Me personally, I wouldn't have been if I'm bonding with somebody that's supposed to be my spouse. But if he went too far, I want to say, that's too much, that's enough. But anyway, he took his opportunity, I'll say, and I don't know if it's going to pay off or not pay off. I don't know if there's going to be complaint next week or what. But anyway, we're going to go to Juan and Carla. But before we go back to that, I don't know. Sometimes it does seem like some people can't take their, oh, I feel sorry for you moment and kind of take advantage of that. And for me, I kind of don't like that. I don't think that's the right thing to do. If you're bonding, that's one thing. But if the person is just really pouring this story on, which I feel like he was real about his story, but I don't like what people like, oh, now that you're going to hug me, I'm really going to get a hug. That kind of hug. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about people doing that. But in that scenario, I felt like I wasn't uncomfortable with it. I thought it was kind of funny that he took that opportunity. She may have been uncomfortable because that's her body and she was in the middle of that scenario. So I don't know all in all how to take that whole situation. But for me, I thought he was making up for lost time because she really has not given him much from what we've seen on the cameras. So let's go to Juan and Carla. And he's like, well, I'm glad she's showing some financial stability, what she's trying to do with her life, even though, she had lost her job. Well, she supposedly left and they let her go. Technically, that's what she said. And now she's kind of rebooting, trying to do the entrepreneurial route with her hair skills and other things that she's into when it comes to, I think, the self-care arena. So they write letters to themselves at a coffee shop. And after they, separate, write the letters, they come together in that coffee shop. And, Carla reveals she was kind of bullied in school and she kind of detaches herself. She kind of caused herself to kind of disappear so that she wouldn't be bullied or bothered or messed with. And she kind of cuts herself off from emotional things because of that. So I could kind of relate to the disappearing part because I feel like I've disappeared and I think I purposely did. And then there were times where I didn't want to be invisible, but it was like I just became that. And it was a protective mechanism. So in a way I could relate to that part of her story. And I'm not sure if she had a lot of tears. I can't really recall because Juan's tears are really overwhelmed the whole situation. Juan he was like really giving her positive feedback in return, and I was like, okay, Juan, when do you want to ever read your letter? You just keep talking about her. Okay, so he finally reads his letter, and he's reading it to the 6-month, 6-year, and 16-year-old version of himself, and he reveals that people were trying to kidnap or steal him as a 6-month-year-old. I don't know who these people were. I think he reveals a little bit of that, but I didn't recall who these people were that were trying to take him. So he had to be sent away for his own protection. So that's crazy in itself. Then as a 6-year-old, that really kind of tore him up because his parents had to leave him to go to America and try to forge a new life for themselves. And during that time was a lot of violence and things going on with the cartel. So they wanted to get out of that situation, out of that type of environment for their family. So they went to America to try to forge a better life. And I guess 6 years old is a tender age and going through a lot of changes during that time. I remember that time is a very sensitive time as a kid and it leaves an imprint on you. So I completely get the emotions that started to take place. And then he was really he was crying through most of this whole portrayal, but he really started crying when he was talking about during going to America and then being a 16-year-old, going through puberty, learning a new language. I think he said the family lost their house. It was just like a lot of bad things going on, and his father was diagnosed with cancer. So, and he just cried so hard. He's like, but I remember my father was just so strong during the whole scenario. He was smiling, and they went dancing that day, and he just kept being happy about it. He just didn't understand why his dad continued to smile. So she gives him a hug of support, and he said the only thing he would really change was his attitude towards everything, but he wouldn't change anything that happened to him. He's happy for his growth within the last few years, and he just wants to stay away from anger and upset, and that's why he always tries to keep a happy vibe because of all things he went through. There's doesn't want to be associated with the anger and upset and all of that may go on with different things in life, but just want to stay happy through it. Now, Carla's saying it seems like they have a closer bond, and she's glad that they went through this letter writing experience. And, some of my fellow YouTubers were like, why are they making people cry with these letters? I do think they really helped, especially in the case of Juan and Carla, and even Madison and Alan, to kind of forge a little bit of a deeper connection. So she finally is like, well, now I feel comfortable enough to introduce you to my family, and they want to stay off camera, but you can come and meet my family. So they go to the family, and we don't get to see anything, but they kind of just give a brief recap of what happened afterwards. And Juan's like, Mom made bukus with food, Dad was funny and nice. He got along well with the family seemed to like him. Then they later on, I think, meet with some of Carla's cousins, and they're like, okay, so how's everything going in the romance department? And that's where Juan is like, we get along good, but this, we just haven't got to the romantic part. We're trying to build a foundation first and connect with each other on these other levels. The romance hasn't gotten there yet, and the cousins, especially the female cousins, are like, yeah. Because I think one of the cousins brought her husband, and they were talking about how they were affectionate and stuff, and they kind of connected it with them, and they're like, well, we're not really. So the cousins were like, we know that Carla is affectionate, so at some point he's gonna have to start showing some love and affection at some point. There's speculation that he is going out on the relationship from some of these previews that we've seen, and he may have switched with one of the other couples. And speculation is him and Madison, but we don't know completely yet. I'm not completely convinced about that as of yet. So now with MM and Akechi, you can't really catch Akechi anywhere because he's MIA. But honestly, it starts out with them both separate from each other, talking to their friends about the scenario. If he's saying to himself, as far as the testimonials, like, should I move back in? And I felt that way too. And other my YouTube family that covers this show was like, I don't know if they should have just slapped them back together, and they feel the same way, because even MM says she doesn't want him to just come back. She hasn't heard from him for a whole day after they talked to the experts. They got into it, of course, and the experts were trying to help them resolve their issues, which seem to be a lot. He has some major communication issues. He says that she's overly aggressive, and to me, he is a very bad communicator, and we can all see it even in the after party episodes if you guys watch the after party. So they're both saying, I don't know if this person should move back in right away. MM is still more hopeful. It's like, well, let's take things slow. And Keshi's just like, I don't even know. And but they're talking to their friends about it, and disrespect is an issue for MM and bad communication. That's what she has issue with when it comes to Akechi. And Akechi's hanging with his friend, and they're like working out like a boxing sparring thing. And I'm thinking like, Akechi, maybe he needs to catch a hit to knock some sense into him, because he's kind of like really checked out of this relationship. And even when he tells his friend that she's asking a lot of questions, the friend is like, hey, and this is a guy too, he's like, she's probably just trying to get to know you, hello. So even the friend has more sense than Akechi does. Maybe he should be on Married at First Sight and they should trade places. I don't know, it's just like, he doesn't get it. And to me, I feel like he's not trying. I feel like he just basically checked out of this thing. So MM is like, hey, we need to have a conversation even before, he can't just move right back in. We should at least have a conversation first to see what we're going to do from here. And she really doesn't want him to straight up move back in either. And I think she's probably feeling his vibe is that way anyway. So she's back at the house. And when Akechi walked in, I was like totally shocked. Like, Akechi's actually walking in here. He's actually back. But they start to talk, and they both agree not moving in right away. She said she needs him to give effort. And he was like, well, I was trying to check on you and all that. She's like, what about that week where I didn't hear from you at all? He's like, we're not talking about that. I don't want to talk about why are you bringing that up? And she said, well, I think you're being really dismissive about the situation. We should try to clear the air about that week you were gone. He's like, just leave it in the past. And he starts just saying some negative things, and he wants things to be done basically on his time. So he's like, if I need some time alone, just leave me alone. Don't try to check on me or whatever. And she's like, okay, whatever. And she's trying to work with it. And she's like, okay, I understand, I get it. She puts on her big little fake smile that she puts on. And she was carrying that smile kind of a lot during the show. And I thought that was really her real smile. But as I saw like the last episode where she was getting real with Dr. P, I was like, I think that's the real MM right there with her face. It's like something unmasked from her. It's like, this is really who she is. And she's not taking stuff. Now, I don't think that she is on 10 like Akechi is saying, and I think she's reasonable in her questions and concerns as far as what they've shown us on the show. There may be things, again, that we don't know and we haven't seen. But, I think she's been putting on that face, putting on that smile, maybe for the cameras, maybe for him, maybe both. But, I think it's fine for her to just kind of let her true nature out, and she's one that is going to be asking questions. And Akechi needs to find some middle ground. He needs to try to rephrase her questioning to something that may work for him. And he wants everything on his time, and it just seems like it's very selfish. So she says, to Testimonial, she's just going to match his energy. She's not going to be putting in so much. And she's going to call him Akechi and no longer her husband until he gives her husband vibes. She said she walked into this treating him as a husband, and now she has to treat him as someone that may have interest in dating her. So she has to dial all the way back, which is maybe what she probably should have done early in the process. But I understand when you are put in this scenario, it is out of the box, very different. And you are expected to give your best to that person. Even the experts say just jump right in head first, and that's kind of what she did. Akechi is cut off by that. Even people are saying, why is she calling him her husband? And but honestly, she did marry him at first sight. Like, come on, I don't see anything wrong with her calling the guy her husband and really being all in just because he doesn't want to be all in. This is like a weird project here. So you kind of have to take it as it is and try to roll with the punches and try to make connections where you can with that person. Because I have seen people jump and go all in and actually seem to work for them. but for others it may not. So he kind of took away all of the excitement and the enthusiasm of what could be, and this is kind of what they're left with. And he's like, oh, you know what, I forgot a few items, so let me go get these. Like, he's really working backwards here, still putting up his wall, being dismissive and negative to her. And even though I do get the idea of having a fresh start, part of me does feel like we need to resolve whatever that was going on in that week. Because if you are married to somebody, you can't just separate from them for a week and not talk to somebody for a whole week. I can even see a day, maybe two. But to think that you can just go away for a whole week, and this process is only so many weeks long, he lost a big chunk of the process, whatever issue he had, for a whole week. So that probably does need to be broken down, but I don't think he has it in him to do so. And if you want to do a fresh start, that's fine, but I don't think the fresh start should include getting the rest of your stuff out of the apartment. I think he maybe, if he needed that air fryer, I think people kept pointing out the air fryer. He could have got the air fryer and left the other knickknacks just to let her feel confident that he was still trying to be in this. But he's like, oh, let me go get the rest of my stuff. And like, well, and I'm going to leave you to the rest of your day. Goodbye. I was like, wow, really? It's just, to me, I really feel like I'm getting beat up here. Like, I would feel like I had to end the process right now, because even though I'm not in it, I feel like I'm getting beat up. So I'm like, if it was me, I'm like, goodbye, not see you later. See you at the end of the process, when we both tell the experts we don't want to be married anymore, because I couldn't take it anymore. He could go. He can go back home, and he doesn't have to come back. That's me. Now, I know they're married at first sight. We're investing a lot into this show, but come on, man. To me, I'd be done. You're investing a lot in this show and in this relationship. This is your future, man. This is going to be on your life record that you married somebody for 5 minutes, it didn't work, and you had to divorce them. To me, I don't think this is something you should play with. But I feel like some people here on the past have definitely played with it. Some people didn't know whether they want to be married or not, I believe. They felt like they thought they could get married, but they aren't marriage material. They need work in a lot of ways. And definitely, Akechi needs work. MM may need some work. But I think if they were to work together, it could work out. But because somebody is not trying to work it, then it's just not gonna. Two to tango takes two, all of that stuff, and two is not coming together. All right, finally, I'm gonna close with David and Michelle. They were the ones to watch tonight for me. So on their way to meet with Michelle's family, she's excited to go see them, and she's like, I'm kind of struggling right now in Chicago, and it's just, I want to go see the people that care about me. It's like, yeah, you're really struggling, like, just in Chicago. She's like, well, honestly, I'm just struggling in this marriage. This marriage is stressing me out, so I want to, be around people that care about me and all. And he was like, well, he did his little testimonial saying, well, I knew that, we weren't doing the best, but I thought we were making some improvements. So in fact, she's like saying this is a struggle marriage, which it is, but it's like, I don't feel like she's not really giving him any credit. But at this point, I see where she's coming from as she reveals this text to him and saying, well, by the way, you text me some text about, I think he says, you so define, I just want to eat you up. So she got this text. She's like, was this a drunk text? What was happening? Like, oh, I texted to you by mistake. I was really texting my cousin because she had this big platter of food where they went to Chinatown, and I was just talking to the food. I'm like, dude, you call your food fine? It was weird. He was trying to explain it off, but to me, I think he was doing a horrible job. You're talking about some food, and you're not talking about a person. So they go to hang with the family. She kind of lets it go at this point because she's still kind of confused as to his response. She knows it's fishy. I think anybody would. So I think he just lied so hard on that one, and I could tell he lied so hard. So they're at the family's place, and she's like, I can't wait to see my pup because I miss my puppy, and I'm stressed because her marriage is pretty much trash to me. So the puppy is so excited to see her. Like, the puppy never forgot her for a moment. It was like a little cute moment that she had bonded with her animal there. But I think his name is Walter. So the family starts to talk, and one of her friends says, when she first started talking to her, she was kind of boring, and was like, okay, like, you want to do something? And she was like, okay, whatever type of vibe, and she was not really all in or connected, and she was kind of boring. So that wasn't very flattering. But she said as time grew on, they were friends in college. She started to become more confident in who she was, and she began to flourish and became more of who she is. And she's a great person. She'll ride or die for you. She's very loyal. You have to prove yourself, and that's definitely something David needs to do for her. But it's kind of difficult to prove yourself to her. She's really not giving him much of a chance. But I do feel like there's things that he possibly could do to prove himself. He could show her that he is looking at apartments so he can move out. I mean, there's different things he could do to show, okay, I'm moving into a new season of my life. And he's working and whatnot, which is great, and they're doing the activities together, but maybe he should go beyond that. Right now, she does admit that she's quiet. She's being quiet and shut down, and she's snippy when it comes to the marriage. And David's like, yeah, she's right. At least she's being honest about that. And later on, after they have that family meeting, she goes and talks and hangs out with another friend, and they're talking about, oh, well, how's everything going? And she's like, well, things are going okay. He's been pretty attentive. He knew I was going out and hanging out with you. He asked me, did I need anything? And all of that. She's like, no, we're going to the bar. So, it hasn't been bad. But then she's like, but I did get this weird text. And she tells us the whole scenario about this text where it said, you look so fine. Sorry, guys, I don't swear or use any language, but even though I don't think that I will be fine for using that word, but he said, you look so fine, I want to eat you up. And he keeps saying it's about his cousin's food platter, and even the friend is like, this is fishy and this is crazy. She's like, she said basically, I think he actually sent another text to another woman. She thinks he could possibly be sexting, and she's like, hopefully if he's not even going to meet people, because that's even worse, even though wouldn't be happy about the sexting. But if he's actually going out with people and having relations with them and dating them during the process of Married at First Sight, then she's like basically lost a lot of even more respect for him, like she barely had any for the first place. But the friend says, no, he can't be telling the truth. You gotta call him out. He's gonna tell the truth. Just call him out on it. And she's like, no, I don't think so. I think he's just going to keep sticking to this lame story, right? So they're supposed to be reading their letters to each other, but they don't even get to the letters. They actually, when they come out, I think Michelle's wearing a mom jean. So Michelle and Camille kind of have the mom jean vibe on this episode. I'm not a big fan of mom jeans. But they both come out, and I think he's kind of wearing a beige-like sweater, but they're both wearing like the similar color jeans, and she's wearing kind of a white tank tee type of thing. So they're matching and everything. It'd be cute to film this part where they're reading their letters, but David gets blindsided by her talking about this text again. So he's like, I wasn't really prepared for this. And she's like, well, it seems really suspicious. Can you show me this platter of food that you keep talking about? and all this. And he's like, well, I don't. And she's like, what was your cousin wearing in the picture? She was like testing him on all of these things. He's like, well, I don't remember what she was wearing. What color was the plate? Why? I don't remember what color the place were. What kind of food? I don't know. It was some type of, because it was like from an Asian restaurant or something. And he named off some random food. It was something like that. Like, dude, if the food was so good, you don't remember what it was, and you look like you like to eat food. Please don't tell me, like, if you was gonna go with the food story, you should have really got really clear as to what the food was. He couldn't pull up the text, and she was like, well, give me your phone. No, why don't you pull up the text for me so I can see this picture of this food? And he started trying to do it, but he was like, you know what? I don't really want to get into this. I don't really want to have to do this. You're just gonna have to believe me. She said, you're being really defensive for this, if this is just a platter of food you're talking about. And she was like, so who have you been texting other people? And he was like, dude, he was lying so hard. Like, you'll remember the food. Come on, if the food was so good, I will remember the food that was being texted me where I'm flirting with the food. And you telling me you forgot what that was and you can't pull the picture up. Anyway, it's like, have you been texting any other people, any other women? He's like, well, text a couple of girls that I met on Tinder that are exes and all. It's like, dude. And he brought coffee to one of them, but she was like, well, are you seeing these other people? He's like, no, I didn't. It's not a date or anything, but you met up with one to bring them coffee, and you were also still talking to some of your exes. I'm like, do they even know you're on Married at First Sight? Are you fooling around with them? Like, and I think that's what Michelle is wondering herself, is like, seriously, why are you even talking to your exes in the first place? Especially if they know you're in this process, unless they don't know you're in this process and you're still messing with multiple women. They think that they're the one. Some people are up for kicking it, messing around, whatever, and they may not even take the show as serious, as well as the people that are in the show may not take it that serious, so whoever they're messing with may not be either. So next time it looks like she's going to be talking to the cousin, and some things are going to be revealed. Can't wait till they get to the final countdown, because I feel like it's so much more to be revealed. To me, this was a good episode, but to me it was kind of an in-between episode before we really get to some stuff here. So that's what it was. That was the whole reason for the title of that, I Just Want to Eat You Up. And I think I saw a bit of the after party, and they were like, you know, if he really wanted to make an excuse, he could have said, you know, I did drunk text you. I was just trying to shoot my shot at the time. And that would have been possibly more feasible, because she even thought that may be what he might have done. But then when he came up with the food platter explanation, that really kind of threw her off. Didn't make sense. And losing some respect for David. Had some respect for him, but definitely losing some after this development. He just seems like one of those guys at this moment, and he's not very good with keeping up with his lies. All right, guys, we'll talk next time. Faith, Love, and Trends, Married at First Sight, 90 Day Fiance. All right, here, all the best, and God bless.